Yeah, it's time to get really bold.
Yeah.
This is Tread Boldly, Leadership Lessons from the Saints, with Father Nathan Cromly.
My name is Father Cromly, the president of the St. John Institute, and this is Tread Boldly, Leadership Lessons from the Saints. The first book of Samuel in the Old Testament begins to tell us a long story, the story of King David. The life of King David is replete with leadership lessons that all of us can imitate. But before we get into them, let's look at 1 Samuel 8, where Israel makes a most unusual request. In verse 1 we read, "When Samuel became old, he made his sons judges over Israel. The name of his firstborn son was Joel, and the name of his second, Abijah. They were judges in Beersheba. Yet his sons did not walk in his ways, but turned aside after gain. They took bribes and perverted justice. Then all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah and said to him, 'Behold, you are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint for us a king to judge us like all the nations.'" Now, on its face, this request doesn't sound like much. Appoint for us a king to rule over us like all the other nations. But profoundly, it represents a deep change. Up until this time, God had been considered the ruler of Israel. He had led them directly. Of course, he had prophets and judges, but the way that they ruled was different from that of a king. Their authority was secondary, instrumental. God himself was the ruler of Israel. Why then would Israel want to have a king? The reasons the Bible gives us is that, number one, the current system, that is, of judges and prophets, was known to have corruption involved. But then number two, they wanted to be like other nations. God does not seem pleased with Israel's request. Even though he'll choose to grant it, he warns Israel that kings will end up ruling over them like tyrants. And before acceding to their request, he makes sure that they understand that their request will lead them to greater sorrow than it will joy. And right away, we find this to be true. The first king over Israel, anointed by the prophet Samuel, is Saul. And while Saul knows many great successes, his downfall is legendary. He mistreats his servants, persecutes the future king, David, is wrapped in jealousy, and loses his mind. In fact, it's only barely that David is able to escape from his grasp, running away from Saul. Even though famously he had at least 2 times where he could have taken the king's life and refused. Indeed, Saul will remain a king, even if a bad one, until the time of David comes. And this is where we see the most wonderful scene unfold. While Saul was reigning as king, God told the prophet Samuel to go and anoint another one who would be king in the place of Saul, and that one was David. The scene is depicted for us in 1 Samuel 16. Starting at verse 1, God says to Samuel, "Fill your horn with oil and go. I will send you to Jesse the Bethlehemite, for I have provided for myself a king among his sons." We all know what happens next. The various sons of Jesse are presented before Samuel, but only David finds favor in the Lord's sight. In the words of Scripture, the Lord said, "Arise, anoint him, for this is he." And the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon David from that day forward. And Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. All of this contains a very important lesson for us. The first point is that the authority that we have as little kings, and wherever God puts us, be that as parents, be that as coaches, in any form of leadership where we exert a powerful influence, let's remember that the one who is the source of that influence is God. That means that whatever we do in our positions of leadership needs to be done with humility as an instrument of God. After all, God didn't want to have kings. He wanted prophets and judges. But he allowed kings so that the people could have the rulers that they want. And that means that we need to be the rulers that they need. And the second lesson is that God has chosen each one of us for the roles of influence that we play in his service. Behind our earthly success lies an intention from God that we should use it in his service. To lead like servant kings means to use whatever God's given us as a steward to make those around us better. We bless those who follow us. Like King David, we're called to serve.
Wow. Treading boldly. Boy, we're so blessed to have Father Nathan every Thursday on the morning offering program, and also really all weekend with Dear Great Things.